I've just met my favourite living English author, Jonathan Coe, in Vienna's Museumsquartier. He's written a new book called Bournville. It's a kind of state of the nation book about modern Britain, and it involves a character called Boris, based on Boris Johnson, a periphery character, but who is immediately recognised as using humour to break things, to destroy things. And I thought that's a really interesting talking point. So I asked Jonathan how dangerous humour can be.
It sounds a kind of humorless thing to say, but humour is a serious business, I think, and humour can be a very powerful tool in politics, a very powerful weapon in politics. But fundamentally, you have to take the issues seriously. And I think Boris Johnson, for instance, in the way he turned the EU into a kind of joke for the British people, he was giving them an easy let-out so as not to think seriously about what the European Union really is, what it does, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing. So the Brexit debate in 2016 was often very unserious, I think, and our love of irony, our love of laughing at other people and ourselves was an important component of that, and in this case, a kind of unhelpful component.
I've heard Boris Johnson compared to many different things. In your latest book, Bournville, there's a kind of a comparison between him and Roger Moore, the James Bond of the 1970s. I think you're going to have to explain that one.
I think there is a lot of parallels between Boris Johnson and James Bond, because Bond in the Roger Moore incarnation and the Bond of Ian Fleming's novels, it's a very unappealing character to modern audiences in some ways. He's racist, he's sexist, he's a hired assassin. But we forgive him his moments of cruelty and misogyny because he does it with a twinkle in his eye and an ironic glint. And I think for a long time Boris Johnson got away with breaking the rules of politics because of that same twinkle.
But he twinkled during Corona whilst partying, and people were dying alone.
Yeah.
Is it a point of no return? Even with people who like humour in Britain, that's not funny.
No, there is a point of no return, a point where you cross the line. And that was the point for him, and that was, the trigger of his downfall. So that kind of humour gets you a long way, but eventually you run into a brick wall.
And a very personal story for you.
Yes, because my mother died alone during the COVID lockdown, and we weren't allowed to see her, we weren't allowed to have a proper funeral. And, that's painful enough in itself, but to learn then that the same politicians who were imposing these rules were not abiding by them is really adding insult to injury.